be able to appear to be before. It would go against our whole thing, the whole programming. Yet, it doesn't happen, it just seems to happen, so it's a trick. That which comes after is still after. Just because it's implied to be before doesn't put it in the before. That's the solution, really. The solution is, if you see the situation from the solution, it's just an activity. If you see it from the problem, there's a reality to it. So that's why there's such a need for a solution from the problem. The problem needs solutions. It needs tons of skillful means to try to release pressure that builds here based on these unseen conditions that we have no idea of. Yet we take ourselves to be the source and the cause when we're not. We're just basically an expression or an effect at most. So this little move of there's something that represents me that starts living as me. So there's a representation of me after the fact, and now is the fact. So now that representation, basically I'm going to die for it. I'm living for it. I want to be right as it. I don't want it to get its feelings hurt. I don't want anyone to fuck with that. And then it seems to dominate you, or actually basically neuters you in a way. So you're almost like, you ever see those movies where they give a poison to someone, the person's awake, but they can't move? They can see what's going on, but they can't do anything about it in a weird way. So they're sort of like that, So the seeing can't be numbed out, it's there, but it can sort of, like almost cocoon it, with this story upon story. I used to see it as like, if you put one sheet of saran wrap over you, you'd still be seeing. And then maybe after 8 saran wraps, but it would start getting to be a little bit cloudy in a way, like looking through a thick Coke bottle. After about 20 saran wraps, there's just a speculation. You're not seeing anything really. Even though they're seeing, it's not seeing clearly because it's seeing through something, yes? It's seeing through something. So in the process of seeing through something, the through that it's seeing through seems to have a big play, has a big role in it, It's not even happening, but that's how it's presented, So there's the seeing through, and now the seeing through, when it's happening, that which it's moving through thinks it's itself looking, So the seeing gets bastardized into something called looking. And to me, seeing is of timelessness, let's say, and then seeing bastardized in time is looking. And looking has a sort of drive to it. It's not just gazing. It's not like seeing, it's looking. There's an intent, There's something in it. There's a movement in it that's different than when they're seeing or gazing. Gazing is just looking is, you're hoping to find something, and you're using that which you really are looking for to find it. See, that's the fundamental rub I never knew until I did. I didn't, but there was a knowing of it. And there was really a knowing of that which I'm not, and then a sense of being became available. And it didn't have all the requirements and the regulations of being from the other point of view. It was just always available at all times, right where I am, with no requirement necessary. You ain't going to get that deal from what you're not. What you're not's going to have conditions and requirements and regulations for you to be. You'll have to probably jump through a lot of hoops, always very precarious. You're not going to stay being, but maybe you can do yourself or have yourself into being as an experience, so to speak. And really, that seems to be the most you can get. So you're attempting to stay as much as possible in the experience of being, which isn't. What you are can't experience what it is. So it's not an experience of being. It's an experience of you called something that you are calling being. yeah, but it's not being, because you'd have to be something other than that to experience it, yeah. So then that, trying to stay on that little bead, on that little point, is a lot of work, because there's a lot of shit happening, pulling, pushing, going, there's volatility all around. And so basically you're usually off the point, yeah, with the hopes of getting onto the point. There's not much, you spend a lot more time under the idea that you're off the point than being on the point. Yeah. So being off the point, what does it do? It demands what? Effort and seeking and drive and fucking to get on that point. And then vigilance and discipline to stay on that point. Jesus Christ. Yeah. But being is a different beast, because being isn't exerting thought or effort, yeah? It's not doing itself, it's being itself. So it's of its nature, yeah? The experience we want to have is of its nature. We want to experience peace, but the being's nature is of peace, yeah? We want to comprehend serenity, but the nature of being is serenity. Yeah, so we're trying to acquire attributes of what we already are, yeah, as and for and by what we're not. That's the fundamental point we just keep talking about. I can't get around it, because I swear, when it started to crystallize in me, it's never changed the point. I just don't see the point of moving on from here unless it's seen clearly. I just don't see it, because I believe you'll be looking from its formation. And then basically, when you go, well, why don't you explain or give me an illustration of that? You'll be the illustration of it. And you'll also exempt yourself from being the illustration, because that's part of what we're illustrating. Yeah? I mean, I've done it so many times where I give it the best I got, and at a spiritual group that's invested in an event called awakening, and I just say, there's addiction, there's no territory that's forbidden to the movement of addiction. Spirituality is rife with it, yeah? And so the person will go, well, give me an example. I say, voila! See, the mental head always extracts itself from it. As, all right, give me another example. You're the fucking example. Yeah, we're the example. We're right in it right now. It's sort of like someone in the water who wants to know what the water is by getting out of it and sitting up there and wants you to explain. Give me an example. You were fucking in the water. That's the example. Yeah? Don't you sense it? I mean, what would motivate you to be here for 7 days listening to tons of people, hour after hour after hour, where there's a beautiful lake outside, and fucking just go swim or something? It's just, just makes much more sense just to run out there and jump in the water than to trudge another day of this. So that just crystallized in this little presentation, and it hasn't changed ever since. And I'm waking, I'm waiting for okay, go ahead, Paul, move on. I don't get the message. It just keeps just pounding away at this thing, because you can see the subtleties of it, not in the speaking of it, but in what you hear having it applied. You don't apply it, but what you hear gets applied to what you are, the activity of being what you're not. Yeah. So then you see it in your own experience. You get the sense, oh, that's exactly what's been happening. And hopefully then that leads you to the point of, hey, I may not be that. If you go to I may not be that as what you're not, it doesn't go anywhere. So it has to land, and then there's hits, almost like an explosion that begets another explosion. So there's a hit, hey, wait a minute, and then boom, 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 and then you realize, Jesus, I've been trying to get out of me as me, and all these things. So now they have weight. Yeah, it isn't like this has no meaning to a lot of people on having never left. What do you mean? You went to a store and they were closing up, and having never left, the police got called, and you went to jail for the night. You know, you overdid your stay. You know, like I went to Thanksgiving and left in Christmas. I'm having never left. No, there's a sense of it already. Yeah, and then there's like a little flashing little billboard up there on having never left, and then the feeling isn't produced by that, it teases the feeling out. You're already in it, it's already there, and then there's an easy way of understanding it on having never left. It's a beautiful gift, really, because there's a feeling of, what the hell, it looks like nothing's ever really happened here. There's lots of happening. I'm not saying that's not true, but it doesn't seem like nothing ever happened, really. It's just, I'm having never left. Yes? So now all these little curiosities that have been percolating find a very, very beautiful, like I walked into that yoga studio to do that talk in Philly. I saw that, and my head just went off. And just exactly, like gone. You could add more gones, you know. You could start out as a gone, and then gone to the other shore. Now, if there's a sense of that it was you that gone to the other shore, you better believe you're going to call it another shore, because if you realize that you have never left, it would just negate all those 30 years of shit. So there's an investment in arriving at another shore, because it would make me look pretty damn stupid if I've been trying to arrive at where I already am. So there's an investment, yes? So there's like a dissonance in there. There's a part, we were sharing it up in Seattle, the idea of, all right, you do all this stuff, and you realize that you have some role in the obscuring of it. You know, why is it that I can't figure things out, you know? And so it gets to a point where it leads to, well, for me to really attain reality, I'm going to have to be destroyed, because I'm the one that's blocking me off from reality, or want to call it the ego, whatever, yeah? And so it just like if you do people who are activists, a lot of people in activism, they hit a point where you got to go violent, you know? I mean, you can't protest on a Saturday in a parking lot. You gotta hurt people's pockets. That's how you're gonna get attention. Or some of them did very good things. There was one group that people were protesting against this place where they killed horses for glue and everything for like 14 years. Nothing ever freaking happened. These people burnt it down with no horses in it, no people, and there it was. I mean, they didn't kill anyone, they didn't do anything, but they destroyed the freaking thing that people have been protesting for, yeah? So a lot of them finally added, you gotta, hurt the profit margin. You gotta irritate the way things are. You gotta protest like on a busy day and block a street. Something like that, yeah? So here the same thing in spirituality. It leads to a point where I'm the obscuring agent, yeah? If you don't see that you're not that, then the only thing that arises in the mental logic is, all right, for me to arrive at where I want to be, which is reality, I have to die, so to speak. Now, your spiritual race, you're going to stay in the starting blocks. You're not going to be in a rush to get to the end. Because if I get to the end and I arrive at where I want to arrive, it requires me to be kaput. So basically, I'm going to drag my fucking heels quite a lot. Because there's going to be this discording inside, yeah? One part of me thinks so, the other goes, no fucking way, because that's the enemy, yeah? So the whole point is, yes, you are the obscuring agent, and you're not, you see. That's the beauty of it. You see there, you are participating in the obscuring for sure, but it's not you that's the obscuring agent. Yeah? So you're that which is before the obscuring. So you are the dreaming. Yeah? The dreaming can't fool the dreaming unless the dreaming is in cahoots with it. So you see it. So now, yeah, I am not. Yes, I finally admitted, yes, I am I'm the cause of my own blindness, so to speak. Yeah? And then you go to the next point, and I'm not that. But if you try to get to I'm not that from what you're not, it doesn't go anywhere. We try to say it all the time now. There's no point to talk to the dreamt about it's the dreaming, because it's not going to go anywhere. You talk to the dreaming that it's not the dreamt. That goes somewhere. Yeah? So you don't talk to the obscuring agent, that it's not the obscuring agent. That will make it even more obscuring. Yes, it will be like unbelievable. It will get to a point of trying to be a non-self as a self. Yeah, but you see, all right, yes, I'm in cahoot. This whole thing is happening, and really, it's a no man show. Really, yeah, like the thief and the policeman are the same. Yeah, they just change outfits. Yeah, yeah. It's a whole big charade thing going on. All right, so now what you are is heard the information about what it's not. Say, wait a minute, I'm not that. Okay, so it realizes that which is keen on getting this message is not it. That which believes it doesn't have the message is not it. Yeah. That it's also clear that which says it has the message is not it. Yeah, so now it's got one ruler, I'm not that, basically. It's not like, I'm not that, it's just, I'm not that. It's just factual. And then what happens is, you'll see more of what you're not in all of its regalia and all of its appearances, hopefully to a point where you don't have to see every one of its wardrobe changes. You see about 8 of them, and then there's the 100 monkey phenomena. You realize it's got a lot of wardrobe. It's going to appear seemingly and have an assumption that it's you, that it was you and it's going to be you. See, it would have no impact that it's you right now, unless it was and it will be. It has no wallop in this moment. Its wallop is derived by was and will. So past and future has an intent that many of us may not see. Its intent is to be the reinforcing of what you're not. Yeah, because what you're not, being in a sense not, it has to be remembered as, and be remembered I will be. Yeah, so it's a weird little way it derives itself as being now by being in the past and the future. Yeah, and it sits atop the I am in a sense, and it uses the I amness to verify its existence, which is mind-boggling. So the I am is like where the chicken's sitting on the egg. So the mental state sits on the I am and then hatches this idea, I am Paul. But it uses the I am to warm it all the time. Yeah. The onness doesn't come from Paul. The onness is I am. Yeah. And then Paul is derived from that. And then suddenly the I am is for all intents and purposes forgotten, really. And Paul is remembered quite a lot. Yeah. And so Paul basically never even looks at the wave it's surfing. It's because the I am is what's allowing everything, but it just thinks it's the end all and be all, and it just rides and rides and rides, thinking on its own power. Yeah. But it has to constantly be reinforced. Now, what you are isn't that complicated. it doesn't need that much huffing and puffing. It doesn't really. It doesn't need to be reinforced. It can stand or sit or lie down on its own. Yeah. It doesn't need any verification or someone to check its pulse. It's just what is. Yeah. It's just what is. It doesn't have. It doesn't have a mental logic. It's not self-centered. It doesn't think in a way. It just is, yeah. And all this can appear in it, but none of it affects it, yeah. So no matter, and it cannot be far from where we are. It cannot be distant from where we are. For all intents and purposes, we are that. It's just that simple, yeah. Now, we can try to arrive at we are that from what we're not, but to me, it's a bogus move. Just see what you're not, and you'll lose interest in finding out about what you are. Finding out about what you are is unnecessary. You're being it, yeah? The being in and of itself is its completeness. It doesn't need verification, yeah? It's being, that's all. It's self-explanatory. So that sense of being, whatever it wants to do, it will do. If it wants to cook up some ideas through you, it will. If it doesn't, it won't. Yeah, it's just, this is just like, can you imagine what we think of when some fly that lives for a day? Yeah. Maybe to that fly, that day is like 90 years. You have no idea how the illusion of timing is being stretched out, you know, and people go, oh, he died pretty easy. He died in a second, but that second may have been a fucking eternity. You have no idea. It could have gone through a rabbit hole and into a fucking hellish realm. You have no fucking idea what's going on. We just walk around tons of assumptions, yeah, judging from our preconceived fucking frame, and the frame doesn't allow much in. Yeah, and what does get in, it turns it, it frames it. Yeah, so everything that enters it, maybe a great new idea enters it, it gets neutered. Yeah, as soon as there's a sense of being Paul, the Paul hearing the message is neutered. It's changed, it's altered, it's tweaked. Yeah, it can be subtle, but it isn't really in most cases. But it can be subtle anyway. But it's a neutering. It's making it something. Yeah. So I find in this situation, then the only wise thing to do is to see what you're not, because you've used it as your looking outpost, and it hasn't done much good. Yeah. It seems to and the more intention and concentration and focus, it makes it even worse. I mean, to me, it seemed like, oh, I've got to get more, you know, I think it's much more dispersal, and it's a loss of interest, yeah. It's a loss of interest. You lose interest in what used to be like, you lose interest in the babbling brook. You get the sense of its moving, the verbing of it, but you're not looking for it to name all the fish and all the twigs and all the leaves and all this and that. There's a verbing to it, that you sense, but you've lost a lot of interest in all that's being carried by it. Yeah, you just, I don't know how to say it, because you couldn't go out and hope to lose interest like this, because that would be interest. It would. You can't intend for what's happening to happen. It won't work. Yeah. You give up not give up. You see you're not that, which is being implied by the claiming of all these let's say misdirected intentions and earnestness and sincerity. Yeah, you see you're not that. Yeah, and there's a loss of interest in that, in being that one. yeah, who's earnest, that one who's sincere, that one who's this, that one who's that, yeah. There's just a loss of interest in it. And it's so, you can't imagine it really. You can't imagine it when it becomes, when there's a sense of it. You can't imagine it. You can't imagine in it if you're in that interestedness of self. You can't imagine. You would think almost anything else would have produced it, not losing interest in it. Yet, it's undeniable. There's a loss of interest in it, and then there's just a different traveling here. That's all. And the traveling really doesn't demand much. It doesn't. I mean, you have the ability. You're just here, and you're on a need-to-know basis, and you just show up and see what happens. There's like little dance steps, and you follow the dance steps, or you don't. It really doesn't matter. Yeah? And then basically, you got a big break at sleep, and then you're up again, doing, following, and it goes on, but you're traveling later. It's unbelievable how valuable that is when it's absent. Yeah? The traveling later is so fucking valuable when it's absent in someone's life. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I was at a talk the other day, and a lady was flipping out about August 5th. Something was going to happen on August 5th, and it was July 14th. It was mind-boggling. She was totally contracted in her head's entertaining of August 5th. She might as well been in the worst August 5th that she could possibly fucking come up with in her head. Yeah, on July 14th. Just blows my mind. I mean, it can be difficult enough to live a day, but to live fucking any day, at any time, years before, years after, and have it override the day you seem to be in, it just doesn't, that's fundamentally, how much more studying do you need, really? Yeah, like we used to do the thing with the, I have it in that book, I think, the aliens come to study Earth and Society of Earth in America, and they have a 10-year grant from their home planet. They've been getting ready for this, they fly here, and then they're here in America, they start learning about it, and then they call up the home planet and say, hey, we're done with our research. And they go, what do you mean? You just got that. You got 10 years. He says, well, any society that places profit over health is insane. I mean, why do you have to get it reinforced thousands of times? It's insane. So, let's go. I mean, how much do you need to see? Then one day of being occupied by another day. Do you need 360 days for that to get through? If you're here and you seem to be preoccupied by yesterday and tomorrow, more than responding to here, pull over, go to the rest stop. Something, gotta look into the computer chip, something's off. I mean, just let's get the basics down, yeah? Not to find how to get into the moment, but realize you can't be out of the moment. You can't be out of the moment, ever, yeah? So let's put that all to rest and let's have just a couple of planks. A simple understanding. You can't be out of the moment, so there's no need to work hard at getting into the moment. Working hard to get into the moment is reinforcing the insane idea you could possibly be out of the moment. So let's stop fucking trying to solve an imaginary problem. Yeah? Just try to see. So what would be the best solution to an imaginary problem? No solution. Yeah? All right? So it's sound now. Doesn't it feel sound? So I'm in the moment. No matter what my head thinks, or no matter what anyone else thinks, I'm in the moment. There's no have the luxury or the privilege or the ability to be out of the moment. Yeah? Everything that we entertain never escapes here and now. So let's put that there. Right? Anything or everything we entertain never escapes here and now. Can't be out of a moment. Put that on there. Yes? What causes yesterday and tomorrow to have power over us is the thoughts about it. Yeah? Why do the thoughts have the power to override today by entertaining tomorrow? They don't. But the mind, the ownership of the thoughts, give them the owner's power. So when there's an ownership of the thoughts now have our juice. Yeah? You could build just an 8-layer. That's all you would need for a working understanding. Yeah? Just see. Just the seeing of what you're not. Start there. Recognize everything, and just like Huang Po said, whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. How hard is that? So, I'm perceiving you. Yes? You're perceiving me. We're off the game board. So we're not that which is perceiving. You see? Whatever can be perceived, and we'll just use it could be everything, all of this, whatever can be perceived can't be the act of perceiving. Yeah? Because it's the perceived. Yeah? The perceived isn't perceiving. There's perceiving, that's it. Then there's the claiming of the perceptions or the perceiving as being the one who's perceiving, and he's just negating that. He's just going, whatever can be perceived, whatever cannot be perceiving. All right, move on, leave 101, and let's go, there you go, you're building something, a nice little understanding, let's say. Yeah? So you know, just like we always explain, the eye isn't seeing, it facilitates seeing. Yeah? The ear isn't hearing, it facilitates hearing. Yes? So let's be clear. Yeah? When we see, you think it's the eye, basically. You think it's you, really. And then you is represented as eye, body, this and that, which can be perceived. So you're off right there. Because what can be perceived can't be perceiving, yet the mental state keeps implying that. It keeps implying that which can be perceived is the perceiver. That's what it's doing. Do you need that much more understanding than that? You really don't. All you need is that. It clears at least momentarily, it clears the board. Then the board appears like it always does, but now there's this little thing inside that's saying, hey, whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving. So you see the language now in another way. The language is constantly implying, I have a lot to do with a lot of shit I have nothing to do. Who would have thunk, you know? But it is. And then you start seeing the manufacturing of all this not from the manufactured, but from some other point. Yeah? There's an aspect of us that's never been touched. It's never been built on. Nothing could obscure it. Nothing could block its view. Nothing. Why not allow that a little play here? Yeah? And know what will happen? This will travel lighter. And when it travels light, you've known me for freaking years. Yeah? Years and years. Have we really changed much, these talks? No. We've been saying the same thing because there's no other point to go to. Yeah? This wasn't given, it built up. I saw some stuff, and then I say, Jesus Christ, I can't believe it. There is an unbelievable move that I had no idea was happening. Something that's happening after is implied to be before. It's incredible. It changes everything. Yeah. What? Yeah. So that which is after is masquerading as the before, and if that's the case, the before becomes maybe some inconsequential, doesn't matter, and only based on you if you want to get to know it or not. when all there is the before. You've neutered, and you know what? We're dreaming. We are the before doing it. There's no way. What? Nothing could fool reality other than reality. Yeah. What else could pull it off? Nothing. Reality, they see right through everything except what it doesn't want to see through. Yeah. And it doesn't want to see through it maybe in 80 years of time. You know what? That's like absolutely zilch. Yeah. Yeah. You know how fast you'll be forgotten by people when you pass away? So just start at this humbly. Leave with this. You cannot be out of a moment. Just start there. Okay, all right, I'll give you one. You cannot be out of the moment, right? Whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving. Yes? Yes. You and I are the dreaming of the dream. We're the dreaming of the dreaming. We're the verb. This is not some stagnant thing you can come walk around and study. It's an activity we're never out of. As long as this is appearing, this is dreaming. This isn't a dream, that can start and go. It's dreaming. Uninterrupted, unbroken, truly unobserved in a lot of ways, because all the observations of the dreaming is of the dreaming. Yeah? So there's no you as the dreamt can't leave the dreaming to observe the dreaming. Yeah? You make up ideas, there's a witness or this or that, but in fact, it's all in the dreaming. Yeah? Like nothing escapes the river of the rivering. Yeah? Yeah. So you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. We give everything we're dreaming by forgetting that we're the dreaming. We give everything we're dreaming the power to affect us. So if you see that, then you're dreaming thoughts, you're dreaming feelings, you're dreaming actions, yeah? You're dreaming other people, you're dreaming all this, and you're giving them all the power to affect you. As what? As the dreaming? No, as the dreamt. Yeah. Dreaming still untouched, dreamt gets up. It's got the ass that can get bit. Yeah, the dreaming doesn't. So yeah, clear. So whatever arises, and there's an inferring it's you, it's not. You don't have to check everyone's paper at the border. Every one of it is not you. Even when it's saying you're the border guard, that's not you. When you're checking everyone else's paper and you think you're the one checking, that's not you. Yeah? So when all of this stuff is said, you don't have to do it all the time. You just see it every once in a while. And because the fact is established, yeah? The being isn't a place you are trying to arrive at. It's available at all times. You're not planning on another gone to arrive at another shore. You're very clear you're at the shore. Yeah. So these things get, they're out of the way now. Now there's a clarity around that. Now you'll be perplexed about where your keys are. I got a hitch for the car. We got 2 hitches. They sent us a huge one that was supposed to go to Texas to a lady named Tara Dunleavy in Leak, Texas. We got this huge hitch for a car. I had to call Amazon. Tell them we got it. He sent us whatever, those things. Yeah, but that which used to keep you mystically confused is finito. There is absolutely no interest in liberation. None. Because that which needs to be liberated isn't you. This needs liberation. It needs liberation from itself as itself. It's impossible. So forget about it. See the futility of a failed system. It's a great, that's what a failed system can do. It can show you it's failed. Yeah. See what happens. See how the cards are shuffled after that. You let the house of cards fall. You don't build a new one. You just let it fall and then see how they're put together. And it may be more hospitable to you and others. Yeah. This could happen. So you're on sound footing. Yeah. You broke it down basically by having a healthy suspicion about what you're not. Because what you're not is on a high wire of tons of assumptions and implied and inferring, and with total conviction it's true, but having no idea if it's fucking true. Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. So it's not, so yeah, it's better that it sees itself on this high wire than thinking it has a sound flaw. Yeah, so then you can see how precarious it is. Yeah, and then see you're not that. Yeah? So you stop wasting time trying to build a giant security system around that, trying to protect it. Yeah? It's not worthy of that. Yeah? It's much more invulnerable when it's vulnerable. It's much more certain in uncertainty. It's much more available because it's realized it cannot be anywhere else. Yeah? It's just so clear. So now you have a sound basis, and then see what happens. Maybe you're interested in things. Maybe you're not. You'll find out. Yeah? But it's a way. I mean, people want to get to the stars and they don't see where they're at. You know, they think spirituality is going to take them lock, stock, and barrel out of something as that something. It's not going to happen. Yeah? Certain things, you're not going to change the source code of the action figure. It's just a waste of time. Seriously, just see you're not that. Let it believe whatever it believes. Just not be the one who believes it. That's all. Yeah? You don't have to change a freaking thing. It's just sort of like an imaginary stepping back or stepping out. Yeah? It goes on, does its little dance. But I mean, when it puts its foot down, it doesn't make a big thud anymore. It's been muffled. Yeah? You're traveling lighter through it. And I don't know what else to do here, other than I basically feel if you get to the point of realizing you're not that, that's basically the end of the journey, in my view. You know that, hey, I can't pivot and start finding it, you know, what I am. I know that. I'm totally clear that this message, if it lands, is a disarming message. It puts a stop to a lot of stuff. Like the pause, and you know when you're in a pause, like, and it seems to go on too long, you're going to get used to that, because there's going to be a pause. And, you know, it may get, you know, uncomfortable, but, and then, all right, and now things are sort of rewired, yeah? Yeah? But that fucking angst, that existential angst, that is removed completely. You know, you're completely here because you're not here, really. Where I always wanted to get out of here when I thought I was here. Now that I know I'm not here, I'm in here. It's completely. Who would have thought that would be the way it goes? But it's true. Yeah, you get out by not, you know, realizing you're not in, really. Yeah. And the out isn't an event that can be produced and then lost or unproduced. It's inherent, yeah? You have never been in what something wants to get out of. You've never been in it. Not one step, ever, yeah? So the whole point of trying to get out is predicated on being in. We go into you're not in. Then there's no need to get out, or the old thing, let go, but this is really about, there's no one to hold on. So you bypass the letting go also. And see what happens. It feels like that. It just feels like a conk, and then things, it's almost like this whole room and everything in it dropped about 20 feet. It looks exactly the same, but there's a feeling difference, yeah? That's on having never left. That's the true stopping, not in time, but as a response to timelessness, yeah? Yeah. And then on having never, then you find these little statements that capture how you sense everything, not hoping they'll cause a new sense. They express a sense you're already entertaining, yeah? That's what's so beautiful when you find these statements. When I found the statement, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha, it was like unbelievable, because there had been so many avalanches, and then they were given a meaning by that. When I saw that statement, that activity of looking for yourself as yourself, just blew the whole ball game out. Yeah. Everything else had to align with that. That didn't align with everything else. That just went, and everything got shook up, and then they had a new alignment. That simple, a new alignment. Not, this wasn't an add-on to another alignment. It just totally, and then everything got aligned in a different way based on these. Yeah, self can't get out of self, and recovery is the most profound, one of the most profound statements. Self can't get out of self. Those things become, all right, the horse is in front of the cart, yeah. And now it demonstrates yourself, and what happens? You grow in ease and comfort, not more agitation and anxiety, because it's reliable, yeah. You have the eyes to see, you have the ears to hear, and you're seeing and hearing. Not the seer and hearer, seeing and hearing. You and I are an activity here. That's all we are. We are an activity here. We're expressing as an activity. That which isn't, or the context of all activities, expressing as an activity in the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. It could do it maybe 50 ways, but here is 5 ways. Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. That's what's happening. Yeah, the seeing, hearing, doesn't say there's a seer, hearer, feeler, taster, toucher, does it? No. It's seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. When does the seeing turn into a seer? It doesn't. When does the seeing turn into a seeing? It doesn't. There's seeing, tons of scenes, tons of that, but it's never a seeing or a seer. It's seeing, yeah, verbing, yeah? Verbing, movement, no cause, no beginning, no end. Who the fuck knows what's going on? But it's going on, yeah? And you're not privy to it, yeah? Because you aren't. So seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. That's a better description of what you are than a seer and a hearer, a feeler, a taster, and toucher, isn't it? It even sounds better. Seeing sounds so much better than seer. It seems so final, seer. Yes, that's the end of the seeing, really. It turns into looking after that. Doesn't it? Seer seems to be sort of a seer, you know? But seeing just sounds much nicer to me. Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Yeah.
Just eating.
What? Just eating. Eating is cool. And so there's a pawing. There's a pawing. Yeah. And the pawing implies a paw. What's the big deal? Yeah. The pawing implies a paw. But see, that which comes after the paw is implied to be before, and then it has problems with pawing. You know, I shouldn't be pawing. This is terrible. I should know better. Whatever. It goes off, and more pawing gets generated. Is it? Really? So the pawing, it's the claiming of the pawing that hatches the idea of Paul. Yet everyone talks about it as if Paul's before the pawing. What does that tell you? They're a perfect illustration of what we're saying here. There's the pawing claim to imply the paw, and then when Paul calls me up and says, I've been pawing all day, I said, no, that's not it. It's the pawing that is used to imply the paw. Paul, there's no Paul pawing, yes? The Pauling is used to imply Paul. Now that may seem, oh, that's nothing. We got to get to bigger, more important things. That is profoundly cool as a basis. Yeah, you better get it. I mean, really, it's sort of like when we used to have the talks here, and we're talking about incredible concepts. Then you would announce that we're not going to have the meeting next Saturday, and all confusion rose. What? Wait a minute, this happened, whatever, yeah? And yet they're thinking they're super clear to understand these incredible spiritual concepts. They can't even take directions to a fucking meeting. So let's get to the basics, let's forget about this vaunted ability that we don't really have of entertaining these high, lofty fucking things, yeah? Because this is framing and all. Let's just see what's happening. Is there verbing? It's undeniable, right? If you may want to deny every seer, but you can't deny the seeing. You just can't. You can have opinions of the seer. You may hate the seer. You may not want to see the seer. You know what I mean? But the seeing, yeah. The hearing, yes. You may not want to hear what you're going to hear, but the hearing of it is unbelievable. Yes. So he's seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, and let's say the mental state with the Pauling. That's happening, right? So that's a verbing. Now, then there's a feeling that you're the seer, or a sense, really. Is that produced from the seeing? Would there be a seer without seeing? There would be seeing without a seer, but would there be a seer without seeing? Would there be a seer without seeing? The seeing is what's happening, yeah? The seeing gets claimed, or there's a reaction to the seeing from the mental state, and the seeing implies, or is used to imply, a seer. That's what it does. It arrives at a logical understanding from an insane system. So there's the claiming of the seeing, and to the mental state, oh, definitely, there's got to be a seer. Yeah. Just like when something happens, if you did it or someone else, and if you can't pin it on any person, then God did it. We're always looking for somewhere. The buck stops somewhere, but the buck doesn't stop anywhere. It's verbing. It doesn't roll to a stop and then become something. Yeah. So this, yes, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, thinking, let's say, is before seer, hearer, feeler, taster, toucher, thinker. So basically, and when you were a kid, baby, you were seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, maybe thinking, and there wasn't a seer, hearer, feeler, taster, toucher. So basically, in our own story, what was there longer, the seeing or the seer? The seer got produced, yeah, in a year and a half, 2 years. So seeing is first. Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting. And then something occurs where the activity of seeing and hearing, feeling gets claimed to imply the doer of it. Yes? So suddenly, all right, so that comes after, doesn't it? But then the feeling, when we're living here now, is the doer is doing all that. So the sense of doer came after the doing, but now is the one that's doing the doing, yeah? And getting guilty or proud or whatever based on what it's doing or not doing. You don't see that? Do you think that's a minor? That's an incredible, it's one of the bases of this whole narration, is that which comes after is before. You don't like the narration and you feel that life seems to be empty. Well, look at its manufacture. Look at, maybe, it's sort of, and then, if you if this started really at the beginning, if this started at the seeing, it would really, the traveling would be very different than if it starts at the seeing. I'm just sharing. Yeah. It's an option that's available because the seeing is really what's happening. The add-on that we may be having a lot of difficulty with is contrived. It's impossible to get out of the seeing, but it is possible to lose interest in the seer. That's for sure. Yeah, so it works. You could take 5 or 6 things. Course in Miracle, you and I give everything all the meaning it has. You and I are the dreaming of the dream. We forgot that we're dreaming, and now we're giving everything we're dreaming the power to affect us as the dreamt. Yes? Can't use yourself to find yourself. You can't use light to find light. You can't use mind to find mind. You can't use the Buddha to find the Buddha. Yes? There's no need to get into the moment. You were never out of the moment. Just simple, that would be it. Yeah. Entertain that for a while, and the whole point is, there'll be a point where you are entertaining it already, and then the words are just finally trigger more of a hit. Yeah, but yeah, it's already in there cooking, and then you find the ingredients of what's being cooked. It's fun in a way. Oh, quinoa. Oh, yeah. But the cooking's on. Yeah. So, all right, that's that for tonight, I think. Oh yes, so yeah, we came out with a new book. Just today, we got them. It's called On Having Never Left. It's been out for a week, but I just got them today.
Oh, okay.
On Having Never Left, Volume 1 of the Incomplete Works of Paul Hedderman. It can be acquired on Amazon. And if you'd like, yeah, that's that, I guess. And we will be, oh wait a minute, we'll be back east in September, and Canada and Toronto in October again. So I'll try to announce it through the YouTubes, because I know a lot of people watch the YouTubes and never go to the website. And I always get emails, I was only 50 miles away, I didn't know. Well,